Hey, welcome to Creative Block. We're your host, V.
And Rose. We interview people in creative industries about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We asked people on Twitter and Instagram if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
Today with us we have the amazing, the spectacular Valencia Spates. Clap, clap,
Hi,
clap,
everyone.
Hi!
Clap, 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 clap. Hi. It's nice talking to everyone.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Valencia. It's so fun to be able to reconnect through the podcast, and it's always a fun way for us to just kind of chit chat, catch up, because the three of us, we met on Thundercats Roar. We all worked on that show.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Fact.
That seems so long ago, but not really at the same time.
It was 20 years ago.
Yesterday.
It was 20 years ago. Can you believe it?
I mean, it was pre-pandemic, and pre-pandemic was 10 years ago. So I'm just saying.
We're the three old women.
Yeah, we're spinsters now.
Old.
So, we were just it's kind of fun because we were doing this thing now on the podcast where we're kind of trying to loosen up a little bit before we go straight into the interview. And we were just talking about boards and about how drawing on this gosh dang Google Jamboard is a huge pain in the ass. And I was just joking about how would you still storyboard, Valencia, if you had to storyboard on your iPad on Google Jamboard?
I know. I would give up because this will usually take me maybe 30 seconds to draw Babs, and this is taking 5 minutes, and it looks terrible.
V likes to do psychological torture on each guest before we begin.
It's my new interview style. I decided
this is so new. I had no idea, V.
It looks great though. For all the amount that you're saying that you're having trouble, I feel like the drawing looks great.
It's literally skipping lines, 10 lines, and then it finally just catches up, and then it's oh, I hate that.
Well, now you know that you'd be able to do a beautiful drawing while riding a horse. So
that's you know what? I didn't look at it that way. I always try to look at the positives and things, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah,
because you never know what might happen in animation. Sometimes they might tell you that you have to use Storyboard Pro, and sometimes they might tell you you have to draw your storyboards on a horse.
Yeah,
keeps you on your toes.
those are for the. You know what? You have to call James Baxter for that.
He can do a horse on a horse.
Right, he can hee-haw perfectly.
Can he hee-haw?
I mean, the way he be drawing horses, and
that's a hee-haw unto itself.
We need to get him on the podcast just to ask him if he can hee-haw, and then that will be the end of the episode.
That's all we want to know.
With James Baxter. Yeah,
that's all we want to know.
Thanks, James Baxter. Have a nice day.
He's a longtime listener of the podcast.
Oh, he is?
He's the #1 patron. No, we're joking.
If you do listen, hi, I love you, James Baxter. Please don't.
He definitely listens.
I met him actually when I was at Netflix, and I asked them about storyboards.
You did?
Oh, really?
I did, because I thought, oh, you are, you've been doing animation, before I was born. And I'm like, well, do you do your own storyboards? Because you are, one of the masters. And this was, 3 years ago when I was doing Inside Job. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, not really. I'm like, oh.
Well, he's an animator. Yeah, it's
right, it's really... but he did give me advice. I'm like, well, how exactly you do animate animals, and animals are very hard to draw. Just them standing, doing nothing. They're already hard to draw, but you're animating. You have to I would think you have to board out or think about how does this muscle look when it's running left or right,
Mhm.
and when you're putting like the hoof on the ground or something, like I have to plan that. And
Wow.
maybe that's just me, but I feel like it's so natural to him that he probably never even had to do that. He just did it. So I was asking like these weird questions with boards, even though he wasn't a board artist, but he did give me like tips on drawing things.
Oh,
which
really?
was really cool. Yeah.
That's nice.
What are the tips?
He said there was a couple of things. This was like 3 years ago.
Mhm.
One of them was always stick with your first sketch, because that is the one sketch that you believe in the most.
That's so
Oh,
true.
really?
So, right. So I'm like, oh yeah, because I usually like, oh, I don't like this sketch. Let me change another one. Well, your first sketch is the one that you visualize first when you're trying to come up with something. And then sometimes you change it or not. But like your first sketch is what you really want. And then go from there. I'm like, oh, I never even thought of it that way, And I was like, oh, okay. I'm learning from a master. Oh my God.
Yes.
Even though it's like so simple, like you like my questions were just like, how did you do this Beauty and the Beast thing? And like, what about spirit? How do you do spirit? Oh, let's get into boards. He doesn't know anything about boards, but he can draw. So I'm like, okay, drawing questions. And that was like one of his advice, and I loved it. And I like stick to it. Like your first sketch is your best sketch, and just expand it. Like I still do that to this day too.
Wow.
Really? That's so cool. That's really awesome.
That's
so
that's
smart.
confidence.
Yeah, it's confidence. And he has a lot of confidence because he's been doing this for so long.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. That's so fun too that you were able to like meet him. Was it just because you were at the studio and you're just kind of like walking around and you bumped into him, or was it
was it in the kitchen when he was like making a bagel?
No. I mean, no, it was not. It was Netflix had like this, it was like a program or something that you're able to sign up and talk to different, art executives, artists, and then he happens to be one of them, and anybody at Netflix could sign up to have like a 30-minute session with him.
I
So
never knew about that.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, when did that happen? It was, I think I was able to see him like 2 weeks before Inside Job was done. So it was like a newish thing. And I wanted to make sure I at least meet him. So I didn't see him in person, but we did like a Zoom call. So we met face to face, but Zoom wise.
That's really cool though that they did that.
Yeah, I was like, yo, this is great. I hope they're still doing that. Because it was like kind of surreal, like, oh my goodness, I'm seeing this legendary animator who like trained under the great animators, and I'm actually able to like talk to him and like get advice. And I know like some of the directors had sessions with him, and then other like board artists and animators, like anybody could like actually just go and sign up on these programs and then just talk to like it was James Baxter. I think there was like another like famous animator that was doing sessions. It was really cool. I hope Netflix is still doing that.
Sorry, I think Eric Goldberg maybe, because I think he was at Netflix.
I think he was one of the people you're able to meet. You were able to meet a lot of people, like a lot of like animators or people in the animation community that has been working in the animation community for a long time. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I did hear of that program, which was pretty great because you can, like you said, you could also talk to execs on like all of the different type of like jobs, not just other artists, but also like I think it was a great way to kind of like meet up with like people you're going to pitch to, or like an executive, what do they think about the series, how do you think about them, and all that stuff. And I think it's really great that you took advantage of the program, because I'm just like Rose, where I was just like, oh, what, like they did this, like that happened.
Yeah, I think I was more interested in like the snacks.
Yeah. But it goes to show that, like, I think, like, what's really cool about, like, you, Valencia, and like your personality in general is like you're really good at like reaching out to people, asking questions, and kind of like being interested in how the studios work and like all of the different people. Because I kind of wanted to ask you about how you broke into the industry, because I thought it was a really interesting story how you kind of landed your first job in animation.
Yeah, it definitely was a journey. So I guess I'll start from college.
Yeah.
Which is, do you want me to like start? Okay, I won't do like my whole life story, but I'll start like my college experience to when I landed on Thundercats. So I went
Yes.
to Columbia College, and I actually wanted to be a traditional animation.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that I didn't want to be a traditional animator because I didn't have the patience to be an animator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, what do I do? I don't know if I really want to do animation, at least drawing, like constantly drawing, almost literally the same thing over and over and over again. Until I hit we had to take a storyboarding class. I didn't even know what that was. And I'm like, what's storyboards? I never even heard of this before. And I absolutely loved it. I'm like, okay, I like this. My attention span will not be tested. So I ran with storyboarding. I like, drawing. I like drawing the scenes. I like putting characters in scenes that I come up with and fleshing that out without animating. So I fell in love with storyboarding. And so even though I still had like a traditional animation degree, I still had that. But for my personal reason, I'm like, okay, but I'm a storyboard artist. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to do as a career, which I didn't even know was a career until my sophomore year in college. I didn't even know that was even a career option. So I get out of okay. My college did like a program that is called like a week in LA. So I went to LA for a week, and I was able to tour different animation studios. So I toured DreamWorks, Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Riley Studios, and we were able to Disney. We went to Disney too. And we were able to stay in contact with the people who gave us tours. We met with like some executives and stuff. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Worth the trip, because I was able to like rub shoulders with people who work in the industry. So I'm like, okay, I graduated college. Now I'm like, okay, well, what do I want to do now? Do I want to stay here in Wisconsin or move to LA? And my parents like, you're going to LA.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, you're going to LA. You're it's time for you to go live your life, reach your dreams and stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. So I saved a little bit of money, moved to LA. And I'm thinking like, well, I just graduated college. I did a whole thesis film, which was well received in college. I'm ready for studio work. I could be an intern somewhere. I'm ready to do like, revisions. And then I was completely schooled because I didn't know what Storyboard Pro was.
Oh yeah.
we never at least they're probably using it now, but like when I graduated in 13, So I went to college in 2009 and graduated in 2013. I did not use Storyboard Pro. That's where I use paper. We use paper for storyboards. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I have a bunch of paper here. Let me draw on paper, like all, my storyboards, like I can pitch, and then let me cold call these studios.
Yes.
Because that's what they told us, to cold call studios. Like,
this
hi,
is
Cartoon
literally
Network.
like a 1930s like way of getting hired.
Right?
I know. And oh my goodness, I cold called so many studios, and all of them told me, like, what are you doing? Just go online and apply there.
Oh, wait. So to clarify, when you mean cold call, you mean like on the phone you're calling?
On the phone, I'm calling them.
Who would you call? Like,
I will call. It will always like reroute me to like the front desk, because they gave me like a general number, like, every building has a number, so they gave me a general number, because I looked it up on like this spreadsheet or whatever, which happened to be a very old spreadsheet of like studio numbers. None of them really, it hasn't really been updated in like 10 years. So I'm like, okay, well, let me cold call these studios. And I'm like, hi, my name is Valencia, and I'm interested in working at the studio as an intern or whatever. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm thinking, like, isn't this how you do it? Like, don't you supposed to like either go to the studio and say like, hey, I'm looking for work, or like cold call the studio? They're like, no, just go online and apply there. I'm like, okay, well, that was a lesson learned.
Well,
I did that for a long time because I didn't know any better. And then on top of that, because I was taught to like storyboard on paper, they really didn't look at my portfolio, because I had to like print it and then take a picture of it. And then it was just like, cause that's what I was taught. Like, I was presenting my portfolio, and they're like, here's all this paper. And they're like, we don't really, what do we have here? Wait, this isn't it. So I'm like, oh, I mean, I don't, how else are people presenting their boards? Because I didn't get it. I was doing exactly what my school taught me.
Right.
I didn't understand. And they're like, oh, this is also on like Twitter too. They're like, you don't know what Storyboard Pro is? Are you sure you want to be an animator?
Wow, rude.
Are you sure you're an animator? I'm like, I didn't. Yeah, like I didn't. I don't know what Storyboard Pro is. And even if I wanted to get it, I didn't know how to get it, because I was so far behind in like technology and ways of doing things, and I felt like, left out for a very long time, because I didn't understand any like new concept other than what my school has taught me.
Right.
I hope Columbia has, updated their resources and technologies since I've been gone. I'm pretty sure they have. But like that was like a rude awakening when I went to LA. And even at the time, I didn't know that there was, see, this is how deep in the Midwest I am. I didn't even know that LA was had a very prominent animation school, like at all, until I actually moved to LA, and everyone was like, Cal
and you're
Arts,
like, who?
Cal Arts this. What's Cal Arts style? Like, what is Cal Arts style? What is that? And then people had to educate me on that rudely. Of course, I'm like, okay, whatever. So that was a rude awakening. But like during that time, I had to, find work. I couldn't just be in LA and not work.
Yeah,
I had bills and food. And LA is very expensive. So I was fortunate enough within like 2 months to get an internship at Variety magazine.
Oh wow.
Ooh,
and that was through cold calling, right?
Actually, yes, it was.
So it does work sometimes.
I love that.
It does work. And
Yeah.
the guy who I talked to happened to be a Columbia College
gosh.
alumni.
Ooh.
And that's how I was able
was
to get
fate.
that internship, because he was an alumni. It was right, but they didn't like me that much. So I was only there for like 6 months. But that was as long as like the internship. And they were like, "Oh, can I stay a little bit longer?" And they're like, "No."
Get out.
So I had to look for work.
But you do ask though, and I think that's great that like you keep asking, because you know what I mean? It's so
like,
important.
If I don't ask, then I won't know, and I'll be, stranded. I'm like, well, what if I didn't ask? I'll be like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. I always want to know what's happening so I can make a decision.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so they don't want me. Let me find work. So my next job is it was like a commercial visual effects company called The Mill. I have stories. I'm not gonna talk about The Mill. I would say that I have I would say The Mill is a pay your dues type of job. It was a pay your dues. There was some stuff in there that I can't believe happened, but it happened. Anyways, I was there for about 2.5 years, what felt like 10 years.
One of those jobs.
But
wow.
I was yeah, it was like I was a groundhog for 2.5 years. I was getting food, I was picking up food, I was plating food, I was washing tables, I was building computers, baking, I was cooking, I was doing everything. I was even a barista, and I hate coffee. So it was something. I didn't know. I didn't like my family. We don't really drink coffee. So I didn't know how powerful this drink could be for people. I had no idea. Like I was making at least 20 canisters of coffee an hour. What? And they were like big canisters. Like, you have like those there's like these giant canisters. I don't know, at like maybe a coffee shop or something, or I don't know. But like they're like these canisters, and like we have like it takes like 5 minutes to like actually grind the beans and then make the actual coffee. But we are filling like 10 to 15 coffee canisters an hour.
Oh my god. Well, it sounds like they needed it there at this place you were working.
Yeah. And it was definitely the mill was an experience. I will say that.
And so how did you keep looking for an animation job? Like what was your
how did you stay motivated?
Yeah.
Oh, it was hard. It was very hard. So the reason why I went to the mill is because since they do like art stuff. So they do visuals, but they also need storyboards for some of their commercial stuff they do. So I'm like, oh, perfect. You guys do storyboards and you guys do concept work. I would love to be a part of that. I would love to like have a promotion and do storyboards and concept work, because that's what I love to do. Well, that never happened. No. And I was there for 2.5 years, and there was maybe like a couple of things, but it was like maybe at tops maybe 3 weeks, but that's not sustainable. And they always wanted me to do it after a long 10-hour day of plating food, driving, getting props for commercial shoots. They had clients all the time, and so we had to like cater to the clients and getting whatever they wanted and cleaning the whole bill. It was a lot. So I was getting very I was getting very tired. I was very tired. And unmotivated. I did not want to do, I was kind of like settling down. I would say that I was settling. I'm like, well, I'm just going to do this forever, because
Oh yeah.
it sounds like that they say they wanted me to do this, but they really didn't want me to do this. They wanted me to still do coffee. They still wanted me to drive and, do all of the gopher work. I was a gopher pretty much. They didn't mind having me do that, but they didn't want me to like do art stuff. So I'm like, you know what? It wasn't, and I was also trying to do other stuff. Like they wanted me to do, they're more computer visual effects. It's like, oh, maybe I can settle in doing something like this, which I'm like, I didn't see, it's artistic, but like with graphs and stuff, and like that I was like, my eyes were crisscrossed with that. Like I couldn't really understand what was happening, because I'm a visual person, but like when it comes to graphs and numbers and like structure in like mathematics, that was totally out of my wheelhouse. So I knew I was going to be very unhappy doing that. So, but like it was at the point where I'm like, well, I was, of course, still looking for work. I applied to like so many internships at like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and just getting no's. I was getting hundreds of no's every month. No. I'm like, okay, this is not good. But like, working at the mill paid my bills. I mean, it was like very little money, it was, but it still supported me to stay in LA. So I'm like, okay, well, I know I need a job. So this is fine for right now because I'm used to it. But I was at my breaking point at that job until they let me go.
Oh no.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they let me go. The position is called a runner.
Oh yeah.
And I was one of the youngest people there. When I was let go, I was one of the youngest people there, but I was the oldest runner.
Oh, so when you were let go.
Yeah, I was there for 2.5 years, and like the runner position happens to be like a revolving door.
I bet.
So I was the constant. So I kept seeing people either leave or get promoted into other positions, and I was just constant.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so they I mean, it was kind of like a push. They like pushed me out of there. Like they're like, oh, you're so much better than what you're doing now. I'm like, yeah, I am.
Yeah, did you feel after you got let go, were you kind of like, just like, this is a sign
oh my God,
that
yes,
I need to move on away from this? Or
yes, like when I tell you that when they had to do like a exit interview with me, or it was like an interview saying like, we're gonna let you go. I literally felt like there was a humongous boulder lifted off of me.
Well, that's a
and
good
I was
sign.
smiling throughout the entire I was smiling through the entire let go interview. I was like, oh my God.
That's good.
This isn't happening, but I'm so happy. So I'm like, okay, great. This is wonderful. I was so happy. And then I'm like, oh wait, I don't have any money coming in.
Oh yeah, money.
So that lasted for like a week, and then I'm like, oh wait a minute, I need food. So I'm like, let me see what's out there. And so I was fortunate to get another internship, which actually paid more. And I was interning at an illustration company. And I was literally on the computer all day just looking at art, which was great for me.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
And they paid more, and they paid more. So I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. But that internship was like only like 2.5 months. So that didn't last long. I'm like, okay, well, I was good for 2 months, and then now I'm unemployed again. And I was unemployed for like another, I want to say 4 months after that. So me personally, I never wanted my parents to like actually help me with like money wise, I like you said, I'm mostly independent, and I don't really like people like, you know, when it comes to money, like helping me, but they're my parents, and they're like, well, we want you to be successful, and so, you know, they help me. So like I was unemployed for like 4 months, and then Technicolor called me.
Oh wow.
I should say I applied to Technicolor because the mill was bought by Technicolor.
Oh. So they had like your contact information or
yes. I applied to the job, and I let them know like, oh, I know these people at the mill who happens, I actually knew the hiring lady because she looked over my what is like punch card or something, or she pretty much looked at my checks, you know, signed off on the checks and stuff, and so she recognized my name, and I applied to the vault at Technicolor.
The vault.
Now Technicolor was actually the vault, yes. So the vault at Technicolor is where materials go in and out. So when I say materials, I mean like tapes of like tapings of shows and movies. So they have like actual physical tapes that the vault clocks in, puts it into the database. That's what I was doing. I was like putting information into the database from all these tapes that come from different television shows and movies. We get like movie reels, and they're the actual movie reels. And like
that's such a crazy job.
It was actually a really cool job. And I was like, they had like a safe for
the safe.
About this. I don't know, but they had like special safes for like Marvel. Like they had like this giant safe.
Is the Disney
Marvel.
Vault real?
And like at the
have you seen the
Marvel,
Walt Disney? Well,
I honestly don't know. They had like ins and outs of Technicolor. But all I know is that there was a Marvel safe. And at the time, Black Panther was in that Marvel safe. So I was like super excited.
You mean like the reel, like the film
excited.
reel?
The reel, like the actual film reel of Black Panther. And we had to like log it in and stuff. It was like, oh my God. Like it was like literally just filmed. But I was like, oh my God. Black Panther film. Like, can we see it? Like, what does it look like? Is it like
is there gold on it? Yeah, it's made from oh God, what is it called? What's the material? The thing that makes everything go. I keep wanting to say unobtainium, but that's Avatar material.
Vibranium, yes. It's made of vibranium.
So were the reels made from vibranium?
You know what? Close to it. They had to.
They probably were.
They actually had to have like I wasn't able to like log in the information because it's like top secret. So they actually had to bring in like they had guards, like they had guards to bring in the wheels. Like it's like so protected. It's so protected, and they had to like there's like specific people.
I'm not surprised though. Like Marvel is like
they're very protective.
Yeah,
of their
they're
material.
very like protective of their material, of their IPs. Yeah,
and they had to have like Technicolor had to have like a specific person to do like lighting and color, because they do that at Technicolor. There's like a lighting coloring bay, and I was able to see some of it before it came out. It was it was really cool. But it was
wow.
It was this was a whole brand new world for me. Like I didn't know that it was this serious, but it was like a serious thing. Like it felt like you couldn't be in the room when they log in the information. It was so bizarre, but it was really cool, and I actually enjoyed Technicolor. they paid me a little bit more, so I was able to like support myself again. And like I was able to choose like the day shift or the night shift, and I chose the night shift, and it was great.
Oh,
really? Why did you pick the night shift over the day shift? I feel like that's pretty.
That's the lone wolf shift.
It was there was still like 7 people in the boat. It wasn't just me. It was 7 other people, and that's when like it's a little bit quiet, but then all of a sudden Marvel comes in, and then that's when they bring their stuff in. And like there's like, oh, here's this other movie, and then this is when they bring their stuff in. And like sometimes it could be like just dead for hours. So back to animation part. Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Were you like,
that's exactly what I did.
So you had a lot of free time.
I had 8 hours of free time.
Oh wow.
So what I did was I drew. And so
Smart.
I'm like, okay, I can get back to, drawing more, because when I was working at the mill, I didn't really draw a lot because my job literally took all inspiration from me, and I was exhausted by the end of the day. I just wanted to go home, just sit on the couch, watch TV, maybe do like a couple of doodles, but it wasn't really anything that's, it was just, whatever. I mostly like applied to jobs. I'm like, well, they're gonna say no anyways, but I apply anyways. But working at Technicolor, I was able to get back into drawing again, and I was able to draw for hours. There's like things to clock in for work, but it didn't take long to do it, to deliver stuff and stuff like that. I was able to get back into the groove, and that's where I saw a post on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, for the win. Yes. And Liz Marshall posted saying that they're looking for board artists and revisionists for Thundercats. So going back to college, my week in LA, I met a woman named Tamara Miles. She happens to be one of the executive secretaries that actually, what's his name? He was one of the executives on our on Tiny Toons.
Oh, on Tiny Toons, Jay Bastian?
Yeah, Jay. That's his secretary. Is Tamara. She's a really good friend of mine, and I met her. She was one of the tour guides in my week in LA at Warner Brothers.
So you had that connection from all the way back then?
Yes. So throughout my years in LA, so when I got into Technicolor, I was already 4 years into living in LA. So throughout those years, me and Tamara, we met up for lunch and stuff, and she became a really good friend of mine. She's still a good friend of mine. And I saw that post on LinkedIn, and I'm like, oh, this is at Warner Brothers. Tamara works at Warner Brothers. I wonder if she knows Liz Marshall. She does. So I was like, Tamara, are you able to send my portfolio to Liz? And she's like, oh yeah, of course, I know her. She's a good friend of mine. And so she did. I got a test. I passed the test. Yeah. And literally that's how I got it.
Wow. Okay, when people say animation is small, this is what they mean.
Yeah, exactly. I had to take like 2 days off at Technicolor to do the boards, because this was like I didn't have like Storyboard Pro. I did everything in Photoshop. I couldn't afford Storyboard Pro, and I didn't know how to get it. So I did everything in Photoshop. So I at least updated on my technology and how to do boards.
Well, what did you use, Rose, for your text for Thundercats Roar?
What did I use?
Yeah, I remember.
I think that, because I had a weird test too. I think I was in like, I'm sure like so many people are in this situation where they're like, Storyboard Pro is like $70 a month. Yeah. Unless you do the sneaky thing of like, like that, like getting a free trial, and then you cancel the free trial, and then you make a new email. And
no one does that, Rose. What are you saying? No one does that.
Nobody does
that. Yeah.
No one does that. No.
Nobody does that. But I forget. I think mine was also just like single images in a PDF. I remember that being like so hard for me whenever I would get tests. Just like, okay, I got the test, like now how am I gonna actually like put together the board?
Because I thought, wasn't there a thing where like you did it with your trackpad or something?
Oh yeah, I had like a busted tablet that like had no pressure sensitivity, so all the drawings were just like so scratchy, like someone had done them with like a paper clip or something. Like
just goes to show you gotta take the test no matter the odds, no matter.
You know what? It's the ideas.
Yeah,
it's the ideas.
It's the ideas
right?
that comes through. Exactly. Oh man, I still like those 2 days. I remember working those 2 days on those boards. I was like, oh, I need to get, well, I would say I need to get into, I really want to get into Thundercats. I need to get this in. But like if I don't get it, oh well, I'll try again some other time when, because I was honestly expecting, I'm like, oh, they're not gonna like my boards, they have.
So you had like no like thought or anything of like this is gonna be the one, or like I got a good feeling about this, or
no.
I guess after like so many
Yeah.
rejections, you're kind of just like, all right, another one
I also-
in the bucket.
Right.
I also wonder if like I don't know if you feel this, Valencia, but I feel like when I've tried too hard on tests before, like I was trying so hard to impress the person, usually it didn't go my way. But when I was just like, you know what, I'll just have fun and do my thing and just be silly, and then it was like, yes. I don't know if you relate to that.
Let's see.
Because it sounds like you were just like, I'll just do it for fun and see what
Yeah,
happens.
it was for fun, because I was at that point, I was just like, I've been rejected so many times that I'm just like, if they like it, they like it. They don't, they don't. I'll have something in my portfolio. If they don't like it, I don't get hired. But I have taken tests. There was a DC superhero, like the DC Supergirl test. That test was insane. That was a hard test. Like they wanted me to do like this action fight scene, and they wanted to do like something. It was insane. That took me a long time to do, and I don't know how I was able to turn it in, but I got rejected for that, so it wasn't meant to be. Whatever. But
it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be. Yeah. So I chalk that up to it wasn't meant to be. If I was stressing too much, if I'm stressing too much on a test, that means sometimes it feels like, oh, I'm not going to get it because I'm stressing way too much on it. I feel like my best work comes from something that I'm having fun with. And that's like when I watch cartoons or anime or any type of animation, and it looks like the show itself is fun and the characters look fun and you can tell that the animators are having fun. Those are like the best. That's like, you can feel that the production is having fun on a show, and that comes through to me personally, and I enjoy watching it, and those like are the best types of show in my opinion. So like,
definitely.
So like when it comes to boards, I was having like a lot of fun drawing Lionel, and his store, and he's fighting. He's like, oh, I was having like a fun time, but I was also like, oh, this might be my break, but I was mostly having fun. And so I guess it translated.
I guess, yeah.
I guess it translated. And literally when where was I? Oh, I was at Kind of Color, and I got.
Were you in the vault when you got the email?
I was
in the vault.
I was in the vault. I was in the vault when I got the email. I was in the vault when I got the email, and then they wanted to call me. So I'm like, okay, let me go to my car. And they're like, yeah, we want you to come aboard Thundercats.
Yeah.
And I was like, and this is gonna sound terrible. When I saw like the offer letter and like the price, like not the price, but like how much I'll be getting per week, I almost fainted.
It is like so much more money than you expect whenever you're like
I had
starving artist.
I was making 13 an hour.
Wait, that's
Right.
below
Yeah.
minimum wage, or I guess it was because it was like so many.
It's probably
Yeah, it was like a
minimum.
long time. It was like a long time ago.
We're so
But I was-
old.
So when
Yes.
I saw that, I was like, oh, this is gonna be every like 3 weeks, right? And they're like, no, this is weekly. And I'm like, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. And I was like screaming in my car. Because I'm thinking like, I love animation, I love storyboarding, and I wasn't even thinking of money. I was thinking of like, I want to reach my goal, which is to be a storyboard artist.
Yes.
I wasn't even thinking of
Right.
money, but then it also helps to be able to, see that and like, I won't have to like eat hamburger helper every week anymore.
Yeah, and it's so expensive too to live out here.
Right, and it's expensive, and like it was like night and day. It went from 13 an hour to like however minimum was at the time in, what was it, 16, 17, doing revisions. It was like a jump that I wasn't even thinking of, but it happened. And so I was like, okay, so I was kind of sad too, because I was gonna leave 2 weeks later from the Technicolor, even though I loved working that job. I was a little sad, but I was like, well, I'm finally reached to where I want to be. Like, I'm on track now. So I left Technicolor, and that's how I broke into the industry. That was a very long talk, but that's how I broke in.
I love this. I love this so much because I think it's such a great story, because it goes to show you met up with this secretary during your tour, and you guys kept in touch and you became friends, and that friendship,
we still go to lunch. We still like, I text her like, hey Tamara, how you doing? Next time when I'm in LA, let's we're going to lunch. We at least go to lunch at least once a month.
Yeah,
at least. So we're still friends, and we still we go shopping sometimes. She's really cool, and she has taught me to persevere.
Yes. And I think also what's really great is that you didn't give up, because you had so many moments when you could have given up, right?
Oh yeah, it was
What was your like support network? I guess
my mom and dad. they
were they just like, we're just like so convinced like you're gonna do it, that you were like, all right, I gotta trust mom and dad.
Yes, because there was like there was a month where my mom was talking about, well, if it doesn't work out, there's like, she used to work for Allstate. She's retired now, but she used to work for Allstate, and she's like, you might have to move to some other state where there's no animation and stuff. Like that was like a really low point, because I was running out of money. My parents were running out of money, and it was getting very close. It was really bad, and it was just like, I don't know what to do. But then Technicolor came in, like out of the blue. Technicolor came in, so it was
good thing.
Yeah. But my parents have been like supporting me since I was a kid in drawing stuff, so they've always been like my main rock in supporting me.
That's great.
So yeah, I will say my parents.
Thank you, mom and dad.
Thank you, mom and dad.
That's so sweet. I love that too, because it's like, like there's like all the different types of stories where sometimes it's like the people that you're up against, like who you have to prove yourself to is either the school or either your parents or either like your peers or whatever. But it's great to hear also about the support networks and that your parents like really believed in your art and like were like rooting for you this whole time. Because
they've been rooting for me since day one, since they realized that I had a talent of drawing. So I'm like, oh, thank you, Mom and Dad.
It's so sweet. And then so it's really cool too, because so you broke in as a revisionist, and
yes,
like tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to be a revisionist on the show.
Oh, well, I was terrified
because you always looked like you were having a great time and you were like so happy.
We were very scary, right?
No,
you were scared of us. We were very scared.
I was when I probably was like a little quiet, but then when I'm quiet, that means I'm observing people. That sounds like creepy, but I'm observing how this, like, I was in a new environment. Like LA was already like a whole overload, like a sensory overload. But this was an environment that I want my career to be in. So I was observing everyone. I was quiet. I was maybe sometimes even a little standoffish too. But I was like, like, wait, I'm not ready. Don't look at me yet. I'm not ready.
I'm not.
That's not the vibe
ready.
I got though. I don't know.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
but I'm introverted. Like, some people say you're not intro. I'm like, yes, I am. But like when I'm quiet, I'm observing people. Like how this honestly sounds really creepy, but like I'm observing like how do people act around each other when they're working together. What do storyboard artists do if they're partnered with someone working on the same episode? Like how are these people friends? Like how do they interact with each other? So I'm learning, but I was very excited. Like this is literally the career choice that I wanted. Like I'm literally living my dream. So I was super excited. And so that's where, I always ask like a ton of questions because I want to know and I don't want to look stupid. So I need to, learn so I'm able to adapt to situations and like adapt to working environments. And because I'm still learning that too, like every production is completely different.
Yeah.
At every production I'm able to adapt more because of like my first experience working on Thundercats and meeting you guys and working with the team and production and seeing all the interns come in. Like I'm able to observe, but like being a revisionist on the show was really fun. It was a lot of fun. I was nervous, I was scared. Like what if they don't like my work? What if I thought I could do this job.
Yeah, you get your shot and you're like, now I can't blow it.
I can't. Right. I'm like, they're gonna, hate my work. And then I remember like either it was like my first or second week, I was like staying over my 8 hours because I was like, I wasn't sure if I was doing the boards right. I was doing fine.
Yeah.
But like, because I'm like, I wasn't sure, like, oh, is this what they want, or I don't know, this is supposed to be, well, let me just clean up a little bit so it shows that I'm doing something. But I actually, do you guys know Dan Haskett? He works at Warner Brothers. He's like one of those the legendary designers. He works on,
I know of him.
Okay, so I'm friends with him, and I actually went to his office because I was like, I feel like I'm in a career choice that I want, but I don't know if I'm doing anything right. And so
wow, you just went and asked.
Yeah.
It's the asking again.
Yeah, I love that. I think this is so great. I love to hear about that because it's, you know, it's, I think that's really a great quality that you have. That's really gotten
Thank
you this
you.
far, you know?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
like
if
confidence.
Yeah, just
I
asking.
don't ask, I won't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, I have to ask. Like, if I don't ask, and then they could be talking circles around me, and I'll be like in the dark, like, and I don't want to be in the dark when it could be important information, you know, that needs to be heard. So I ask and like, well, do you have experience? This is going back to Dan. You know, you've been working in animation for years, you know, and he always told me, you make sure, because I was staying over to like, you know, 9 hours. I'm like, you make sure you do your 8 hours and then go home.
That's
yes.
wise.
Thank you,
like,
Dan.
It was like, it doesn't
Dan.
matter if you don't finish your work. If you do need help with your work, you just make sure you tell your production or director or whoever, say that you need extra time, and most of the time they will accommodate you. And I'm like, oh.
Thank goodness. Yeah, that's good. He was like looking out for you.
Yeah. I need to call him. I've been meaning to call him.
Call him right now. Get him on the podcast.
Get him on the podcast live.
I'm supposed to be doing like a Zoom call with him on Friday. So I'll be like, hi, if you know Rose and me, they say hi.
Oh, so sweet.
I don't know him.
Oh, you know,
I just I've heard
I would
of
say
him.
we talked about you. He's really
He'll
nice.
be like, who's that?
He's really nice, and he is like a wealth of information because he's been in the business forever, it seems. And he's been at like,
that's good.
He's been at like Warner Brothers for like 12 years. And the question I want to ask him is like, how are you able to stay in one place for 12 years? Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stay at a studio for, that's not a year. I want to stay for maybe
we all, yeah.
3 to 4 years. What do you do? Like, what do you have? Do I have to be 60 years old and a veteran to stay?
Yeah, when you hit 60, they just put you somewhere.
You know. So that's Dan. But yeah, he gave me that advice, and like since then I have taken his advice to heart, and I'm like, once 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock's hit, I'm out.
Yeah,
good.
I'm out. I make sure that I'm able to also, my other question was like, also, how do I balance my time in drawing you know, different scenes and stuff? And I was able to like figure that out too, to make sure everything, I'm able to finish a section at the appropriate time and then work on the next one at the appropriate time, and I'm able to
like
balance
time
it
management
out. Yes, time management. I couldn't think of the word for some reason. Time management. So he definitely helped me out with that, because I was all over the place. I didn't know what I didn't know if I was doing anything right or wrong. And so that, you know, was extra time that really didn't need extra time on. Like, no, this is fine. This is good. Like, you didn't have to stay past whatever to do it. This was totally fine. So Thundercats was a lot of fun. It was a great show, even though people didn't really like it. It was a great show, y'all. I'm just saying, it was a great show. And creative.
I truly believe that like maybe like 5 or 10 years from now, people are gonna like unearth it from the internet and be like, we missed out.
This
is
is
so
a cult
good.
classic.
Yeah, they'll go into the vault.
Yeah.
The Technicolor vault where, you know,
They
the
have
only
all
copy of
those.
Thundercats is.
But Thundercats was such a great show, and I learned so much from that show. And I'm thinking like, and apparently, because I was also listening to like, this is also going to sound very creepy, but when you guys had like conversations too about like other animation like projects, and like you had a friend on this project or like past projects you done, and you guys like talk about different productions and like, oh yeah, this was a cool production. Like, oh, this production was kind of iffy and didn't go well. I'm like, oh, I thought all productions were like Thundercats, which was great, and everyone had donuts and stuff. So I was like, oh, so each production is completely different.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, because I mean, especially like you saying, like, oh, the way I was introduced to storyboards, it's like all on paper. Like, how was your like expectation versus like how it actually was whenever you finally got into like a studio setting?
My expectation.
Or I guess like did you have like an idea of like what being in a studio was going to be like versus like
no,
Oh, nice.
not
So
at
you
all.
just went in like a blank sheet of paper.
Like literally, like I had no idea. Like, like I went on the tours and stuff, but that's like, okay, you're looking at, people are wearing their mask when they see tours, right? They're not going to show you the meat and potatoes.
The meat
The
and
meat
potatoes.
and the potatoes of the actual production. They're showing you like, oh yeah, this is a cool drawing that I'm doing, but the production could be absolute, chaos.
Yeah.
But when I was sitting at my desk, I was like, this is so cool. and the Cintiq, I had like this tiny Cintiq at home, and when I saw that giant Cintiq, I was like, this is heaven. Oh my goodness. And like when I was working the Cintiq, and it was just like flawless drawing, and I'm able to like actually express myself on the I didn't even care about my surroundings. I was just like, oh my God.
Also, it was pretty cool because we did have the we like that area we were in WB when we were working on Thundercats. We had the old like animation desks, which kind of felt kind of cool. Like, I mean, they're kind of bulky, but it was also kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, it did feel like I felt like we were really doing something.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean?
How you guys decorated the room was really cool, and so that it made it like homey. You guys made it more like your personalities, and that brought out more like creative ideas and like different characters. I'm like, oh, I'm finally surrounded by like-mind creatives that like have ideas that I have, or like maybe different ideas that I don't have, but can be ideas that I have, and like that goes with it too. Like if you're surrounded by creative people, like-minded people, it makes like studio life more enjoyable too. So I was perfectly like, I don't know what you guys thought of like the studio, but I was like perfectly content. I was happy where I was at, even though
that's
like
good.
that weird smell. There was like
that
weird
it had the weird smell. It did.
There was a smell.
I remember there was a smell, but I was like, okay, air freshener.
Yeah, we can fix that. Let's fix it.
How after WB? So you were on Thundercats for like pretty much a year, right?
Yes.
And so then you like worked on Trolls, and you worked on Inside Job, and then you worked on Tiny Toons. Kind of, how was your process like navigating all these different gigs? Do you feel like it was a lot easier? Did you have a network after you did Thundercats? Kind of, what was your how did you kind of keep looking for gigs after Thundercats?
After Thundercats, what did I do after Thundercats? After Thundercats, I went to Inside Job, and Gia, who was actually my board partner on Tiny Toons,
Yay,
oh my gosh, you guys are like, you've been on
we're literally following each other.
Yeah, that's so funny.
We're literally following each other. And so, hi, Gia. I swear I'm not creepy.
By the way, for the listeners listening to this podcast, Gia was a guest on Creative Block. So just scroll through the episodes and listen to Gia's episodes as well. It's a really fun one.
Yeah, she was a great partner. Gia was actually at Netflix before I was. She got hired to do boards on Inside Job, and she put in my portfolio there. And I'm like,
oh, that's great.
I know, right? Like,
shout out to Gia.
And it was like Inside Job in and of itself was a lot of fun, but it was definitely challenging. If you look at the show, like it was a very complicated show, especially when it came to like storyboards and like the design of the show. I like that's not like inside job designs wasn't really my drawing style, so it was definitely like a learning curve for me, but I was able to get it. I was able to get it after like a month or so.
Yeah, because there's some of your boards on your Instagram profile, and they're like super on model. So I'm like, I would have had no idea. Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I would have never known you struggled judging from that.
Oh
post.
yeah. Oh my god. I was like, oh no, they're gonna fire me. Oh like I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I was able to like work through it a little bit. It was a lot of fun. It was very challenging. Like even though I was the revisionist on the show, I did board like some scenes, but like sometimes I didn't use any of those scenes that I boarded. And I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. I was able to board like a couple of scenes, but that's all, that was more experience into storyboarding, which I was totally fine with.
Right.
I feel like it's a pretty common thing sometimes on some shows that are like very much like they ask for some boards and then they put it together in animatic and then they look at it and they're like, oh, this scene doesn't work. We have to like rewrite it. And then they have to like board it completely again. And so the boards just kind of like go away. And yeah, so I feel some shows are more likely to do that than others. I feel like Thundercats was very like, we didn't have like a whole lot of stuff that would like get cut usually, but there's some shows where it's like way more common for sure.
Right, like behind the scenes.
Yeah,
like after exec notes and everything, it's like a lot of reworking sometimes.
It was definitely another learning curve, because I was used to like Thundercats revisions. Inside job revisions were like a whole new beast. But it was still a lot of fun because it like challenged me in different ways that I didn't learn on Thundercats. So it was I would say inside job was like another cut your teeth on something new for me. And
that was good. I feel that you did like such a different show right after Thundercats too. Like to get that breadth of experience.
I actually wasn't expecting it, because I'm like, have you seen my storyboards? They don't look anything like inside job. Like, you sure you want me? And they're like, yes. Yes, I guess.
We're sure.
And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll be there in a day.
Yeah.
I'll be there. So I was there, what was it? Like a year? I think I was there like a year and 5 months, which I hear is actually pretty long for storyboards. And then
that's a good chunk of time.
And then I left. I didn't leave. My contract was done, but then I went back because they still needed help. So I did like another month or so doing revisions, which I'm like, okay, cool, and then that's when I went to Trolls. Like after Inside Job, I went to Trolls during the holiday season, like freelance holiday, and that was a lot of fun too.
How do you know how you kind of got the gig on that one? Just kind of like wondering also like how the network played out for you and all that jazz.
Valencia's web.
Tell us all your secrets.
My web. I was, during my years of looking for work, looking for storyboard work and revisions work, I always kept in contact with a recruiter at DreamWorks.
There it is. Keep your
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Keep talking to people, y'all. That's how. That's
how they know. Like, keep pester. Sometimes he might get annoyed. I think I annoyed one recruiter, and I don't know if he ever wants to speak to me again. But whatever.
But
He will.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't email them like every single week. No, please don't do that. I like maybe email them maybe like once a month.
That's good.
That's really good.
Once every 3 months, you know. If I'm working, I might email them once every 6 months, depending on the job. Like, hey, I'm looking for work at, you know, after January or something like that. So you could still be on their radar, because sometimes they're looking through like a ton of portfolios, and I'm thinking they will forget your name automatically once you're off the phone or off their email, because they're looking at other people's work too. Yes. And they're looking at thousands of people's work. So you always have to, like, at least for me, I always have to like keep reminding that I still exist.
No, that's good to do.
Yeah.
But I kept in contact with a recruiter, and then finally she contacted me. I honestly wasn't expecting her to contact me, because it was during the holidays. I was getting ready to come back home and visit my family, so I wasn't expecting her to contact me, but she did. I'm like, oh, this is DreamWorks. I've been trying to get into DreamWorks for the longest time. So she contacted me. I did an interview, freelance work on Trolls, which was a lot of fun. I actually did Trolls here back in Wisconsin. And I did it in one of my parents' bedrooms or something, because they had a computer in there. And that's when like the whole insurrection happened.
Oh, no.
That's how I really remember.
What a twist,
right? I was drawing like one of the trolls, and they're like, January 6th, all these Trump supporters. And I was like, oh my God, wait, I need to finish this I need to finish this drawing, but there's an insurrection happening right now.
Oh my gosh, how do you tune out stuff from your brain? And
I didn't. I watched that whole entire thing.
No. Oh my God.
I mean, it is. I mean, we don't have to talk about it. Yeah. But like, it is crazy that we all kind of like just had to keep working. Like,
yeah, it was like there was no way. There was no way. Literally, I was like, are we gonna have a country tomorrow? Like, I was that.
Gotta meet my deadline. Yeah.
Right.
Let's draw these little trolls.
I'm like,
my final act. Yeah.
Like, wait, let me draw the little butt on this troll for a second, and then okay, perfect. But you know, Donald Trump is causing an insurrection. But I need to put this. You know, it was very interesting. But I had the least. I had a lot of fun in Trolls. And then while I was on Trolls, it was literally like, I think 2 weeks before my time on Trolls was coming to an end, is when Tiny Toons contact me.
What?
And I know, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, Tiny Toons. I didn't know they were doing a Tiny Toons. I knew of Tiny Toons. I never even admitted this, but I never watched Tiny Toons. Oh my God.
You're gonna make the fans angry.
Sorry guys. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
So my dad watched Tiny Toons.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Are your parents big cartoon people? Do they love animation?
My dad,
it's funny because when Rose said, "Are they big cartoon people?" I imagine are they actual cartoons? Did they just jump out of the TV and? Anyway, sorry,
Valencia.
I wouldn't say they're cartoon people. I just know my mom, not really. My dad, he has watched cartoons. Like he probably didn't even know until I told him this. Like he used to watch Gigantor. Back in the 70s, like when it came out, he watched Gigantor. I'm like, you watched that's an anime. You watched anime when you were
That's
a
a cool
kid.
dad.
Right. But he didn't know it. He thought it was like a robot, you know. It's a cool robot, you know. Like, well, you watched anime, you know.
Even robots can be anime.
But I wouldn't say they would watch a cartoon. They will watch whatever I am a part of. I would say that.
Right.
My dad likes Kung Fu Panda. He likes
That's
Shrek.
good.
Yeah, he watches like animation films and stuff. Of course he watched like Inside Job. We don't even have the network where Trolls was on, so we didn't watch that. I didn't even watch that. 'Cause I don't
we're getting all the secrets.
I'm sorry. I just didn't have the streaming. I didn't have Peacock, so I haven't
It's
watched
okay.
it.
I think it's true though that I feel like with the streaming now, it's becoming so difficult for us to even like. We were just talking with a friend of ours, like have like a good way to promote your storyboards nowadays is like you grab the final episode and you put your boards in comparison and you're like, final to boards comparison. And sometimes it's so hard to even be able to just get your hands on the episodes that you worked on.
Right.
So anyhow.
It's the streaming stuff is becoming out of hand now. It's just too many of them, and then like, oh, I'm working at Warner Brothers. Oh wait, now I'm working at Netflix. Oh wait, now I'm working at Amazon. Wait, but I don't have all these streaming services to actually see my own work. So it's that's like another rant. But yes and no. Both of them are creative people. They are very creative. And that's where I get my creativity is from my parents, but just like in drawing, art, stuff like that. My mom is creative in like design and placement and color, and my dad is creative. He's also able to draw. That's how he inspired me to draw, because he was able to draw.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so he was like, yeah, I could draw this, but now it's time for you to draw. This is like going back to my baby days. And so that's how I got into drawing, because my dad was able to draw. But my parents don't really watch cartoons. They'll watch a film if I'm in it, or not me in it, but like do something with it, like storyboards or whatever. But I don't think they watch it on a daily basis. Honestly, they probably don't at all.
Yeah.
They're of the older generation. They're like, cartoons are for kids. We'll watch it if you were a part of it. Okay, I'm like, okay,
right.
whatever. Fine, good.
Hey, that's
fine.
all you can ask for.
Right. I'm like, I'm trying to change their mindset, and I feel like I'm slowly getting to them. I remember we had like it was like during the summer, we had like a discussion about like, well, why would you want to watch this movie when there's this film? It happens to be animation, but they have they have adult topics in this film, but you rather watch this live action film rather than this animated film. And they're like, oh well, I want to watch this film because it was a whole thing.
Oh
Anyways,
yeah.
I think I'm slowly getting them slowly, but it's gonna take some time. I'll get there.
You were talking about how your dad inspired you to start drawing, but I also think this is a good segue into a question from our listeners.
Okay.
From at Megan Fisher Draws. Actually, no, it's at M Fisher Draws.
Hi, Megan.
Wow.
Megan, who's also Thundercats, who also was on the podcast. Check out her episode.
Yes.
She asked,
and Tiny Toons.
And Tiny Toons,
right.
Her question is, was there a piece of media that inspired you to get into animation?
Yes, there was a piece of media. I would say there was a piece of media that inspired me to look at more cartoons and figure out how do I be a part of it, which was Tom and Jerry. It wasn't.
Oh,
I think some people
really?
think, oh, it's gonna be anime. No, it was Tom and Jerry, like the 1950s Tom and Jerry.
That's so funny. Yeah, I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna say anime, but
No, it was Tom and
wow,
Jerry.
yeah.
It was the 1950s Tom and Jerry. And I even wrote down the episode that I liked. Let me give me a second.
really?
Oh, really?
That's so
Yeah.
funny. I think it's great too because it shows that like, you know, you were inspired by like a very cartoony show and you've worked on a bunch of really cartoony shows because like Thundercats, Trolls, and Tiny Toons, they're all like very cartoony.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
very cartoony and squash and stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Tom and Jerry, Solid Serenade. And it's the
Mm.
episode where Tom is serenading his crush, like that white cat that was on the balcony.
Oh
And he's like,
yeah.
is you is or is he that song?
Is that the one where he's like a cowboy?
No, that was a different episode. This was
I remember that one.
Yeah, that everyone remember. There's like a meme on Twitter that's hilarious, with the cowboy one. But this is the one where Tom is serenading this cat in this house, and he's singing like
I have it on
"Is you is" or
page.
"Is you ain't my baby," who actually was sung by Nat King Cole, which I actually just saw on TV. But that, for some reason, I was like completely entranced by like, how are they able to sing and dance and like, draw, them dancing and singing on
Right.
beat, on time, and make it funny and make it like, I was
yeah, it's like a whole performance.
It was a whole performance. And I was like, I don't know how they did it. Like, how can I be a part of that? And this was at a very young age. Like, I want to do that. And there was like another one where this was another Tom and Jerry episode, but this is when Tom and Jerry, and there was like the little baby mouse, but he was like a French little baby mouse.
Yeah, the Musketeer. I remember that episode.
It's the two Musketeers, and it was literally the last scene of the two Musketeers where Tom gets his head cut off, like at the end of the episode, and I was like, they're able to kill the characters like that, and you're never able to.
Like, this is a game changer.
It was for me, because I was like, you can do and then you see Tom next week, like there he is.
You can do anything.
So,
yeah.
You can do anything, and like he's able to go to this country and that country, and then there was like different styles of Tom and Jerry throughout the years, and I was like, oh, this is this is like at the age of like 7 or 8. I really want, how do I get into it? How do I get into, able to draw like these people to do, because I understand that you're able to draw these cartoons because they're cartoons, but I thought you had to be like really old and like I'm thinking like all these people are like Disney artists who was drawing these cartoons. I didn't know like, this was made in the 1950s. I didn't know that.
Right.
I just know that they were like cartoons that I really loved. And I also, another style was Tex Avery, like Tex Avery's cartoon block.
Yeah, I think, are you talking, there was like a sorry to interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
I remember there being like there was like a Tex Avery like after hours block.
That was, yep.
Was it called Toonheads?
I thought it was called the Tex Avery Show.
Maybe that, but I remember like after hours, it was probably like Cartoon Network.
It was Cartoon Network, and it was like around like 10 p.m. because it used to be, they didn't have Adult Swim at the time, and it was always like after hours Tex Avery and Toonami, and I always watched like,
what a combination.
Right? And that's literally what I grew up with, because it was, well, if I want to go into the anime aspect, that was of course like my main inspiration.
Oh yeah, you know what?
We
can
have to.
We can segue into the anime thanks to Gia, who you mentioned in the episode and who asked on Twitter, how often do you read manga or comics? Which one would you say influenced your drawing style? So that's kind of a good segue into anime.
Okay, so I read manga pretty much every day. I am a collector of manga. I have collections upon collections of manga here at my parents' place and at my apartment. I go to Barnes and Nobles once a week to get my manga. Like, I have a problem.
Oh wow.
You
have the card?
I have the card, of course. I have my Barnes and Nobles 10% off any purchase.
You have to have that.
Do you
always?
Do you have a subscription on the Shonen Jump on Viz.com or no?
I don't, because I'm able to read the chapter for free for that 1 week.
Oh,
so I don't.
You're you're so up to date.
Yeah, you're going through it so fast. Yeah.
And like I've been, all the stuff that they're showing in the app, I've already collected and I have in my closet or back in my apartment in LA. So that's not new for me. But I have like a stack of manga right now that I'm currently reading. So I'm constantly reading manga. When it comes to anime, I used to look at anime like every day. Like, I consumed anime. Like, I was eating. This is like when I was like in my high school years, college years, and like a little bit early in my 20s. But like, life happens and like there's other stuff you pay attention to, like, oh, I want to go hang out with my friends and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, friends.
Oh, that's right. And on a job, I have a full-time job that I love. So there are other concentrations, but I still watch anime. But yes, it's a constant. It's still like, my parents thought I was gonna be over anime when I was like in high school, and it just kind of grew. It's like this giant monster right now that it's still very prominent in my life. So yes, my consumption of anime is still very strong.
Is a lot.
It's a lot, yes. And I get like, now I'm at the point where that I'm looking for more classic manga. Like the most current manga that I absolutely love is Fist of the North Star, which is like
yes, because I feel like your style is like, when I look at it, I can tell there's like influence from anime, but it's not like 2000 anime. I feel like when I look at your style, I think more like late 80s, early 90s anime. Like, so Fist of the North Star kind of makes a lot of sense. Like, what I think a lot about Baxter too. It's like with the 3 exclamation points. It's so funny because I don't think a lot of people talk about that manga.
No, I know, and I know anime and manga are now considered mainstream, but I feel like there's such like the old anime manga is like became like the niche.
Yes, that's
within
true.
the niche type of thing. And like, you get so much art from like the older manga compared to like what's coming out now. Like, you get so much story, and the story could be utterly ridiculous. And like the characters could look utterly ridiculous. But like, I like enjoy it so much because it's like so much camp, and you can tell that they're having fun with it.
Baxter is very like Rocky Horror Picture Show camp.
It is.
Yes. It's basically that in a manga, but with even more like mature content.
Oh yeah, it's very it's very and that's a lot of people think like anime, oh, this is for kids. I'm like,
This one, it feels like very like a heavy metal, you know, like
it's like heavy metal dark fantasy type of manga anime, because there's the anime came out too. It's very 80s, like even like the jokes are like cheesy 80s jokes. I'm like, oh my god, but I love it.
It's really funny. It's really weird.
It's so fun, and I just utterly love it. And I'm like, I need more classic manga to be published, because I am thriving in, like, I'm like consuming any type of old classic manga. And the most recent title I got was Spriggan. Yeah, Spriggan. Oh, and that was like a 1990s manga. And they did like an anime on Netflix for Spriggan too. But I wanted to see the 80s, 90s style. And because it has so much detail, and like the way they painted it, and it's just like it gives like a romantic feel to it. Like I just love all of that. So I'm trying to, I want my style to be a little bit more 80-ish right now, but like my style changes from time, and I don't know. I like to adapt. I like to like, oh, let me try this style for a little bit. Oh, maybe let me go back to this style. Like I try to, mix it up from time to time. But right now I'm like obsessed with like old classic manga, and Fist of the North Star is giving me everything.
That one's really campy too. That one's so campy.
It's so campy. And then there's this, okay, I'm just gonna plug this in because it's this manga
you have to.
This one manga, okay, you're gonna laugh at me, but okay. This one manga is called Rooster Fighter.
Oh, I've seen it, but that's on the Jump. I remember seeing that. Yeah,
is it on the app? Okay, well I'm collecting the manga. I'm collecting the manga. And Rooster Fighter is literally Fist of the North Star, but like a roosters.
Yes.
It's
really?
Yes.
It's really funny. It's a rooster, and he's like so dramatic and edgy, and he's like, I love that fight, and he can break the ground with his beak.
It's so, and he has like all these powers, and he's like, oh, this is cluck power, and like it's and then he like acts like a real rooster sometimes, and it
starts out with this crazy like romantic scene too, where there's like this hen that's like, Rooster San, and he's like, no, I can't, I have to pursue my destiny.
I love that.
It's so great, and he's like traveling around like Fist of the North Star. He's, there's like connections to it, and like he even looks like the character from Fist of the North Star. And then there's like this little chick, the little tiny chick that follows him around like in Fist of the North Star, and it's so good. And they're roosters, and that makes it even funnier. And people are like, this girl is nuts. She needs to be in a hospital. But like, I'm telling you, if you're looking for a good shonen ridiculous manga, that is top tier. And
the art is really good too.
It is.
I want to see.
Wait, what's the name of it again? How'd you call it again? Because I remember reading it, the first chapter, but
it's called and it's also very funny. It's so funny. It's called Rooster Fighter. At least that's the English. Fighter. It's the English name.
Oh yeah.
Fighter.
I'm good. I'm just gonna plug in the cover. If you guys are like listening on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, just kind of jump into the YouTube video, and you can kind of see all the references. I've kind of plugged them into the Jamboard. Yeah, it's that's a crazy one. That's so funny.
It is. I'm like obsessed about manga. It's so good. It's so, and also Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, that one's the classic.
That's where all the fans are like obsessing with right now. It's Chainsaw Man, and and it's very good. It's very good.
It's good,
like
but it's like a
my thing.
different style. I feel like Rooster Fighter is very cartoony and campy and fun, and Chainsaw Man is very like bleak and kind of dark. It's kind of like a dark comedy, so it's like a different vibe.
Oh, it's night and day, honestly.
Yeah.
Like even the style, like art style is completely different. But like give Rooster Fighter a chance. It's so good. And like the monsters, like there's like adult things too, because like the monsters in the manga are like going through real life issues. That's why they're monsters. Like this person lost their wife, and so he's dealing with depression, and he's become so depressed. He's become like this monster, and he's like terrorizing other people and stuff. Like it's very interesting and very campy and very funny. So give it a try.
So
I'm sold.
this was a great pitch, Valencia. You have to.
Oh, okay, good.
You did sell it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, these drawings too are they're so intense.
I'm sorry, I haven't drawn anything. My tablet just kind of crapped out on me.
Oh, it's okay.
It's all
I'm
good.
sorry, y'all.
It just means that like all of you guys listening, all of you gals and girls and humans listening, just check out Valencia's Instagram. There is a ton of great art
there.
and then you can see all her drawings. Just before we wrap up this episode, we'll ask you the one question, which is,
okay.
do you experience creative block? And if you do, what does it feel like, and how do you deal with it?
I do experience creative block. How I deal with it, I wrote this down because I had to think about this.
Oh, prepared. You came
yes.
prepared.
I like that. You know one thing about Valencia, she's always
I make
prepared.
sure I'm prepared. What I like to do is I like to do illustration work. I even do like freelance illustration work from time to time. And but for like personal illustration projects, I love to look at fashion photography.
Oh yeah,
because they have like a lot of
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like concept and like composition, and then there's like color, and then it's just like there's so many like colorful ideas coming together onto one page, and it like tells a story. And so I get absorbed in what they're telling me in the story, which makes me want to draw out the story. And that brings about more ideas. And then from that, sometimes I'm like, oh, I kind of want to make a comic, with like an idea that I have from drawing this simple illustration. And I make, mini comics here and there sometimes. And that's pretty much like, oh, what else? Something else I wrote. Oh yeah, I like drawing samurai cutting up monsters. That's a little gory.
That's like your default if you're like,
that's my default. Yup.
Yeah.
Samurai cutting
I'm totally
up
stuck.
monster.
Yeah.
Let me get out of this little rut here that I'm having. And I'm like, oh yeah, what can I do? Oh yeah, this samurai, I want him to be cutting up monsters. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love drawing, like, I mean, okay, I should say this. I have always been like a shonen anime fan. I never really got into like Sailor Moon or like Cardcaptor Sakura.
Mm-hmm.
I was always into like Dragon Ball Z. And I was always into like Rurouni Kenshin and Mugen and Yu Yu Hakusho, like those shonen. I grew up with shonen, and I like, of course, like shoujo stuff too. But like my style of drawing has always been geared towards more shonen style. I'm like, even right now it's still geared towards shonen style, but I'm kind of going into like a little like more feminine girly stuff. There's like some illustrations that I've done that's more shoujo josei style too.
Yeah, I would say josei more than shoujo for you.
I used to like collect the manga for like a lot of shoujo beat if y'all, back in the day know what that is, Shoujo Beat. The magazine Shoujo Beat. Anyways.
The believers know.
The believers will know. The believers will know. But I was into that, but like I'm looking at like my closet full of manga, and a lot of it is like I Shield 21 and like Yu Yu Hakusho and like a lot of like Shonen Jump titles. So even like as you can see now, I'm also more into like, I wanna draw this cool samurai cutting up a monster, or like there's like a cool pose, or like maybe he's eating food, or stuff like that.
Right.
But also like for creative block, figure drawing. I'm trying to get more into figure drawing too, because as an artist, I feel like you need to know like the building blocks. Like the atom is the building blocks of life, and you need to know how it works. And that's what drawing too. You need to know like structure for like something to look right, even though it's in a cartoony style. You can tell that there's a structure to it. So figure drawing also helps me get out of creative block, because it's challenging me to maybe do something more realistic, or maybe I like to extend ligaments and stuff like that. And so it's giving me to think other things to do rather than what I'm typically doing. So figure drawing is very helpful, and that's where like the fashion photography comes in, because they're posing that goes with figure drawing, and then you're also working with like clothing,
right?
And like dealing with different folds and stuff like that. So I should have said that first. I should have said figure drawing is one of the main reasons.
No, but I think that was great.
I do get that I get that a lot from your art though, because I'm like, wow, this is very like it's great for like the posing, but also like, yeah, it just felt very like fashion photography.
Yes.
Like some of the work that you have on like on your Instagram with that like very like opulent, like detailed, lush.
Yes, I love it.
Like I feel like you love like the details.
Oh, I do. I try to, I wouldn't say try to emulate, but like I follow like a lot of like fashion, like Dior and like Gucci. Like I even follow like their campaigns. Like, okay, what kind of photography campaigns do they have on like Instagram? And then if you like go on their website, you see like all these creative campaigns that they have. And I feel like, okay, like you're looking through another creative eye. Like they're not drawing anything, but they're still creative, and they're drawing with photography. And like there's just so many ideas that comes out of fashion photography that can apply to illustration and even like storyboarding too, when you're thinking of situations like how would this composition look like if I pose this character like this. And sometimes I even go back to fashion photography if I want like a complicated composition, because they do very complicated compositions sometimes too.
That's very true.
Yeah. It definitely is like one of the main creative freedom to have, for at least for me, for my arsenal of how do I get out of this rut? And it's always been like fashion photography. And I'm not really in like a creative block for a long time. Once I like draw out like an illustration that I have from fashion photography, I am back at it again.
Dang.
So it's like
you found it. You found the
I found what I need. Juice. Yeah. I found what I need. It didn't take a while to find it, because I'm always watching, always looking, always searching. So, and I found it. I'm one of the lucky ones, because I know I have some friends who are just like, I'm still in a rut, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have fashion.
I love
has
that though. That was a
fashion.
great answer because I think we had nobody on the podcast say that before. So, and I think it's really great because I do think fashion is so creative and fun and campy and like outrageous and crazy. And I think it's
Right?
like it has a lot of fun
Yeah.
like tied to it, I think.
Right?
And
And like
that really,
so is
yeah.
animation. So is
Yeah.
animation. It's crazy and fun and a lot of flair and it shows personality. And I'm like the two go together in a sense, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I really agree. And it's funny because Araki, the JoJo guy, like uses the fashion a lot. That's his big thing too. He's just
I love JoJo.
Yes, of course you do.
I love JoJo. I have all the manga. I have all the anime, Blu-ray, whatever. I love JoJo. I have all of his art books. They were expensive, but I have all of his art books. So
You have to.
I have to. I get inspiration from all the stuff that I collect. I'm surrounded by stories. I always say,
It's
even
true.
though my parents were like,
That's good.
There's a lot of books.
Every
Where
time
you
we
gonna
hang
store all these
out,
books?
you always pick up an art book. It's funny. It's you really do. You really do cultivate
Yeah, I
that.
did.
Yeah.
I saw I think you must have like tweeted like that you just wanted like a big library, and I also want that for myself.
I did. That was a while ago. I did tweet that. That's still true. That's still true. That's
Maybe
still
I was
true.
going through your tweets. Sorry. I was like, what? I want to look at Valencia's art, and then I saw some tweets.
That's still true.
Sorry, Valencia.
Oh no, I'm totally. It's out in public. Shoot. It's out in public, but that's literally life goal is to buy a house and just put my books in it.
Yeah, the house is for your books.
Yeah,
exactly. A specific room will be my office. My parents know this already. They already know what I want. They're
My
ready.
manga
They're like, yeah,
office.
we're waiting for you to get all these mangas out of the room and from the basement.
They're like, hurry up.
that was so fun. That was great. That was such a fun episode. I love that we managed to like hear your full journey, but also all of your influences and where you find the fun in creativity and drawing, and just kind of, always keep optimistic about this crazy journey in animation, because animation is
It's a wild ride.
It's a wild one.
It's definitely a roller coaster, and I've been in animation for like 5 years. I think it's 5, almost 6 years, and I still don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I still
Truly.
don't know. I'm like, I can't answer that question because I don't know.
I thought that was great though. I think there was like so much like great insight and like really good advice to share with our listeners. So
I hope I'm able to like help someone through my whole, rant.
yes.
My whole life journey.
Yeah, I agree. You gave a lot of good information, and I think just hearing you talk about like how you struggled and overcame it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that always helps someone to know that they're not alone when they struggle.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hope so. Yay. If one person is able to get something from it, I'm happy.
And with that, that's the end of this creative block. Valencia, thanks for being our guest and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to our listeners. Follow us on Twitter at Creative Block, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor Clements for editing the podcast, and Malik for helping us produce the show.
If you love our show, then support us on Patreon. It helps us pay for things like Zoom and Drive and all these little things that a podcast needs, and our editor and producer, because they're instrumental to the show. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews as well as bonus episodes. Click the link in the description of this episode. I have been your host, V.
And I was Rose. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.